guys, welcome to Suzuki Piano School Volume 1 Lightly Row. So we pay a lot of attention at the Suzuki School to the detail. We're all about the detail. We're also all about relaxing. So we're going to cover quite a lot today with this little piece that we're going to do. So when I sit down to look at a new piece, there are a few things that I do to set me in the right zone. So I usually look at the left hand, or I practice the left hand first because I'm right-handed, and sometimes I find the left hand a little bit trickier. So that's what I like to do. The right hand often is easy because it carries the melody, so you kind of know where it's going to go. The right hand can be a little bit more predictable actually than the left hand. So I like to look at the keys that I'm using, what notes I start on, the fingering, and how many different notes I'm going to be playing as I work through the piece. Now, the fingering is put in for us here. So we've got 1, 3. When the fingering isn't repeated, it's the same. So usually they tell you the fingering on the first instance of a note or when it will be helpful. If you want to go all the way through and just do this, you are perfectly entitled to do that. Do anything that is going to help you get this piece right and beautiful. Okay, what else would I look at? Well, obviously I'd look at the right hand too. Similarly to the left hand, what am I doing? What fingers am I using? Yeah, what key am I in? If you tell yourself that this piece starts on a G and goes to an E and then moves down a bit and then comes up again, and you have these a kind of little anchors in your brain which just help you when you're practicing. You can probably commit this to memory, but I've got a terrible memory, and I've got far too much on my mind to commit things to memory, and I don't do it, and it's not a technique I've ever used. Does that make me poorer musician? I think sometimes yes, but not always. As a composer, I'm not required to remember much, so I can kind of wing it, generally speaking. I read music very well. I like it in front of me. I like to know what I'm doing. So it just depends. People work differently, and there's no right or wrong way, really. And because I improvise so much, I kind of quite often wing it anyway if I'm in a ad hoc live situation. That can be good or bad, just depends. But for the Suzuki School music books, we are going to rigorously stick to the music when we're looking at the music. I've got paint on my hand because I've been decorating. So right, let's have a look, shall we? Let's look at all the indicators. This big arched line here, that is suggesting a phrase, like a sentence, a sort of breathing thing. So I just want to talk about breathing here and really relaxing. And the thing that I'm going to combine with all these free lessons is mindful Suzuki, and how to make us relaxed musicians, and how to avoid stress. And if you start at the beginning breathing correctly and avoiding stress, it's going to put you in good stead later on. So we're going to breathe this sort of lovely sentence as if we're speaking it, but I'm going to exaggerate it a bit, and I'm going to be very shoulder uppy and falling into the piano and all a bit slightly dramatic. But if you do that, you understand what you should be doing and how you should be doing it, and then you can rein it in if you want to. I mean, some performers don't rein it in, you know, you really see them doing that, and it's lovely to watch actually. But it's up to you. You may be shy about that, I don't know. But if you understand it, the falling in, the releasing, the taking off, the breathing, it really does make you a much more interesting performer to listen to, let alone possibly to watch, depending on your take on it. So let's have a look, shall we? Let's look at the left hand first. Now, the phrasing isn't applied on the left, but that doesn't mean to say it doesn't apply. So we're going to think about that phrasing as well. The other thing I need to tell you, because I play a digital instrument a lot, I've got a habit of when I play the first note and then the second, I take it up rather gradually rather than. Do you see? There's a slight overlap, and the reason I do that is because it's different to playing an acoustic piano, and you tend to get less sort of follow through. Although I have got a full set of strings under there, but it's still it plays differently. And when I'm recording, I don't necessarily want those notes stopping so fast. However, when I am recording, quite often I change the length of the note afterwards in the edit anyway. But it's just something I've got used to doing. And I've got a pedal as well, which is this thing which plugs in. This is my sustain pedal, which is not used very often, to be honest, because I usually add everything in the edit anyway, so I don't kind of need it so much for performing here. I mean, this is my recording studio, it's not a performance suite. Let's start with the left. Right, okay, so that's the notes. Let's try and do that whilst we're breathing and being more relaxed. So really let everything go. Breathing. And now let's try it breathing and with this lovely phrasing. Right, now you see what I mean? Really getting into that much more flowing. And I don't know about you, but I feel really, really relaxed actually. I feel quite nice. Let's have a look at the right hand. Breathing, falling in and ending our phrase. Falling in, coming out, falling in, falling out. How does that feel? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Suddenly, I mean, I feel great. I think this is really going to help you. So let's put hands together. Falling in we go, and breathing nicely. Lovely. And you'll notice as well a change of sort of temperature as you go through. When we get a bit faster at this, we could be a little bit perkier at the beginning. Still falling in, watching that phrasing. And a little bit quieter towards the end there, if you want. Or you could be a bit jolly. Breathing. So you can play it in a sort of rather romantic way, as if, I mean, anything that you play quite slowly and tunefully sounds romantic already. Or you could play it in a very dance way. It's up to you at the end of the day. Suzuki is probably somewhere in between, but have a listen to the Suzuki tapes, or put your own take on it. As long as you get the notes right and the rhythm right, I think we'll be okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we're here, so why don't we have a look at this line. So we've got something a little bit different. We're moving into D's here. Now, you'll notice the phrase marks, the sentences are slightly different. So we're sort of falling in, falling out. Bit different, isn't it? Feels a bit different. Quite difficult as well to be smooth when you're doing lots of notes together in a row. Do you remember what I said about lifting gradually? Well, when you're doing notes in a row, you can't. And when you're on a digital piano, it's even harder to get anything that sounds less detached. But we're not doing staccato. Okay, so make it the transition as nice as possible. You don't want any spaces between the notes. Okay, so watch that phrasing there. It does change a bit. Let's have a look at the last line. The only difference is going to be, and they've very kindly put in, oh, there's loads of differences actually. This we held down for 2, but this one we're actually playing 3 notes. So it's quite different, quite different. Now, if you've practiced this and you've got really good at it, and then you've got to do this, that's going to be a bit of an ish. So when you start to get quite good at that bit, you need to have a look at that bit before you get really good at something, and then it's imprinted in your brain and you can't do anything else, okay? So hold that minim, by the way, for 2. I'm going to do some theory classes as well. I think it's important. I get when I'm teaching and playing notes, it's quite easy for me to forget and make mistakes. So it would be quite useful for me as well to get my words around the right way. So I thought, yeah, let's do some classes on theory. For the time being, this note, this white note, you hold down for 2 beats. Okay, 2 crotchets. These are the crotchets. These are 1-beat notes, and this is your minim. That's a 2-beat note. Okay, let's have a look then. Falling in, breathing, falling in, falling out. Okay, I'm not sure I was very relaxed there. Let's try hands together. Falling in, la 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 la. A little bit quieter, fading off because it's the end of the piece. The other thing that you might find really useful is to make up a song to it. You can la la la, la 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 la, or you could go, let me think, we are friends, I like you, do you like me too, too, too? Anything you want, you know, because it might help you remember it better, as you can sort of sing along. So it's just a useful little tip that you might have fun doing. Also, it gets you into a sort of songwriting groove. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? I don't think. Okay, so the takeaway for the German folk song is breathing. That last line, I think, is the hardest to breathe nicely. So really concentrate on that, and it's because you've worked so hard to get through here. When sometimes you can get a bit rushy towards the end, and that's never a good thing either. So really watch your breathing. Now, the other key thing that you must do is always play things slowly to start with, because you can spot your mistakes. And then speed things up later on. Okay, really, really important. Slow everything down. If you're using the Suzuki tapes online on our website or whatever, you can slow the recording down and play along to it. There are lots of ways of slowing yourself down. You can use a metronome and put the metronome on a slower beat. I mean, it doesn't actually say, but you could start with, say, 60 BPM. And the next day you could, once you've got that right, and remember the suggestion is always between 5 and 10 times spot on correct. then it's time to move up to the next level. So speed it up after that. Or as soon as you make a mistake, you need to slow it down again. And if it's just one bar, say you were making a mistake here because you just couldn't get it into your head that you're playing another one, you're going to have to practice those, say, 2 or 3 times, and then you're going to have to practice the mistake bar maybe 20 times. You know, you've got to get it right. Got to get it right. Always start hands separately. Always, always, always start hands separately. And always practice your weakest hand more. Okay? Really important, that. And I mean, I practice separately before I put them together, even when I'm really good at a piece. I still do that. It's a really good way. You know, for sitting down to practice this, I would practice my scales, and then I would practice my arpeggio. Yeah, nice.